Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. Head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, this is a live stream, so if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, one other thing, this is for educational purposes only, okay? Now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Morgan Carey, to the show. Morgan, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Tony?
I am amazing. Love that smile. Love that smile. Brighten
Yeah,
up all.
thank you.
Of course, of course. Now, before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Yes, my name is Morgan Carey. I am a people development expert and a podcast host. I am the podcast host of the People Power Project podcast, and I help businesses develop individuals or develop leaders so they can retain top talent, and I develop individuals so they can be retained. Yeah. I'm
Amazing.
originally from Richmond, Virginia. I'm still in Richmond, Virginia, little old Richmond, Virginia. My family's there. And I got into leadership and development as a 15-year HR specialist and HR professional certified. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Now, walk us through your journey. How did you get into the work that you're doing now?
Yeah. So like I said, I've been in human resources for about 15 years, and I started like a lot of human resources professionals start. They had a bad human resources experience. So sometimes we
Understood.
yeah, I had a bad human resource experience, bad management experience, and I decided I didn't want to be that kind of manager. I wanted to learn to be the kind of manager that I wanted to see. So not only did I want to go into HR so I could help develop people, I felt like I could do more have more of an impact from the inside out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm never going to do that. And I'm going to teach other people not to do that. I am an Army veteran and I got some of my human resources experience from there. But I'm also what I like to call a master starter, right? I have become a master at decreasing the time from idea to execution. And
Okay.
it's like I'm like,
Okay.
oh, I want to do that, and then boom, before you know it, it's done. So I think I bring that skill into the human resources and leadership development world as well. And personal development is my thing. And I think it's people when people think about HR, they think about transactional things, right? They think about, I need my benefits, I need my pay, I need this. Can you help me? All of those things. But there is an element of developing people in human resources and developing leaders so we can create workplaces that people want to go to, right? I call it creating
Right.
better workplaces, building better workplaces.
Now, what was your journey like? Like, because I'm from Newport News, and
Mhm.
Virginia is always going to be my home. Have family there and everything. But what was your journey like? Going through life and everything.
Well, okay, so my journey starts, I always say this, that my journey starts with loss, right? I was born to a woman who was dying. Yeah. My biological mother was diagnosed with breast cancer while she was pregnant with me. And doctors said, I'm told this story, by the way, this part of the
Okay.
story, that the doctors told her that she would need to abort the pregnancy in order to get treatment so she could begin to try to save herself. Well, we can see how that turned out because I'm here talking to you and she is not. She passed away. She lived for about 2 years after I was born. And she was very young. My mother was 34 years old. And though my childhood, as I was told this story, I used to think 34 was old until I became 34 and 35 and
Yes.
36. And it didn't feel so old anymore. Right. And when I got to be 38 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer as well. And so I always say my story started with loss, and then cancer pretty much has um, I feel like it almost haunted my life because it was always there. It started with cancer, right? And then I was always afraid that I was going to get cancer, and then I did. Yeah, yeah, but
Wow.
today I'm cancer free, so that's a blessing. And I did get the opportunity to be raised by a wonderful father who remarried to a wonderful woman who I also call my mother.
Okay. Wow. Well, first and foremost, thank you for being brave, and congratulations on being cancer free.
Thank
Because
you.
I want to talk about that a little bit because when people hear that word cancer,
Yeah,
right, it is it's such a deafening word,
yeah,
right? And I don't wish that on no one. I
right.
really don't. Can you walk us through the experience of being told that you have it, right?
Yeah.
For the viewers out there who may be diagnosed with it right now and may be living in fear.
Yeah. So anyone who's been diagnosed with something life-changing like cancer or anything that could mean death, like it's usually the first thing we think of. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna
Right.
die from this thing. And the initial shock of that is something I can't describe it. I really can't describe it, but I can do my best to walk you through my moments. And so it was
Right.
during I got diagnosed during COVID, right? So most of the world was still kind of shut down,
Mhm.
and my visit was virtual. Well, I found my lump myself, right? And I was like, oh no, that's not what that is. It's not that. And I waited. I waited maybe like two months before
Mhm.
I actually went. And when I finally went, I still was convinced that it wasn't gonna be that, so I go and I get my ultrasound and everything, and they're like, "Well," the ultrasound tech says, "I don't think it's that, but I'm gonna send you on to biopsy anyway." So I get the
Mhm.
biopsy, still not thinking it's anything, and they wanna follow up with me, right? So by the time a few days after the biopsy, they wanna follow up, and it's virtual, and when I get on the call, there's 2 doctors on the screen, and I just remember thinking, "There's no way there's 2 doctors. Why are there 2 doctors on this screen to tell me that I don't have cancer?" I was just baffled by the fact that you needed 2 people to say, "You're good," right? So they start talking, and I've learned now when you get bad news from the doctor, I can detect the sound of their voice if they're gonna tell me bad news
Yeah.
or if they're gonna tell me good news. But the sound of the voice was kinda sorry and just, they didn't it was they didn't wanna say it, and they said a whole lot of stuff before, but I don't remember all the things they said. I do remember they said it is positive for a cancer. I remember that because I remember thinking a cancer. I didn't know there was different types of cancer. But anyway, it was a cancer. And my mother was sitting beside me on the sofa because for some reason she had said, I'm coming to the house for this reveal. And I was like, no, you don't have to come. I'm fine. She was like, I'll be there. I'm so glad she was there because I grabbed her hand and it was just resting beside me on the sofa that we were sitting on, and I grabbed her hand, and I don't remember much of what they said after that. So if I could describe the moment when I was diagnosed, and probably anybody who's been diagnosed with cancer, it's a blur after they tell you the news, right? You don't really hear much, and you're really thinking about what am I going to do next. But thankfully, I was linked to a very good like medical system, I feel, because the medical team, because it was almost like they just went to work instantly. I got diagnosed on, think, either a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I was in their office on a Friday, in the surgeon's office on a Friday. By the next Friday I was on the operating table. They really just didn't waste any time because it was a rapidly growing tumor that I had. Surprisingly, that I was able to wait 2 months, but they said it was growing pretty fast. So they got it, and I went on to do a double mastectomy and then chemo and immunotherapy, and here I am. That was 3 years ago now, almost four.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is truly amazing because I have a friend right now. He got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Uh huh.
And it's pretty, he's going through the motions right now, but he's very optimistic and brave soul. And so if he's listening right now, my heart is always with him. And I wish him a great recovery, right?
Yeah. Me
To
too.
be
Me
one of
too.
the billions that's, that's part of the survival rate of it and everything, and we lose so many people to this devastating disease.
Absolutely. But I will say the support, whatever your support system, you just need to make sure it's strong, whoever is in your support system, because my support system is unmatched. I swear. I mean, people came out of. I mean, it was people that I knew, but it was still like overwhelming the amount of love that I was shown and continue to be shown since that time. It's like one of those that when something like that happens, it will really show you who's in your corner. It will
Right.
really show you who's in your corner, and I'm just so grateful to the people who were there and the people that stayed there and the people that are still there.
Right. See, that is a true blessing. That is a true
Yeah,
blessing because your support system is everything, and we hear horror stories of people who don't have that support system.
I couldn't
And,
imagine. I couldn't
you
imagine.
know, I've heard the stories, and I will tell you, it is a hard journey for people. It truly
Yeah,
is when they feel alone in the world, right? And now I want to talk about, the after effects of losing your mother at such an early age,
yeah.
being raised by a father, right? You
Mhm.
know, did your father ever tell you stories about your mother and things like that?
Yeah, yeah, he told me stories about my mother. A lot of times I would have to ask. But honestly, I was, a lot of the stories I got from my biological mother's family. I am still very close to them as well. I grew up
Okay.
knowing just who they are, and still very close to her sister and my uncle. And my grandmother also passed from breast cancer, but she passed in her 80s. So she got diagnosed like late 70s, I think really closer to 80. And she got diagnosed in her late stage cancer. And so she lasted for about 5 years, which is average but she lasted strong for 5 years. So
Right.
I grew up very close to her, visiting her. So I knew just who my family was. And I knew about my mother and I know stories of her. And the only thing that is missing for me is the fact that I don't know what her voice sounds like. So I am obsessed with voicemails. I am obsessed with voicemails because there was never any voicemail or video or anything of her. So I have no clue what her mannerisms were like. I don't know, like, just little things that I probably do that she did. I have to rely on someone to tell me. And that feels like a hole for
I
me.
can I can
Yeah.
definitely see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
So I'm always curious as being a man, and I've known several men who have lost their spouses, things like that. And you watch the aftermath. That one of my friends, he just remarried after losing his spouse, and
Uh-huh.
you know, um, but I always look at him because he's always like, man, I still miss her,
Yeah.
things like that. Although he did get married to a wonderful, wonderful woman and things like that, and he actually runs a nonprofit to help men navigate that
Go
world
through
as
that.
well,
Yeah.
right? So it's very inspiring to hear, but also see when men can heal and find a place to be able to invite someone else in.
Yeah.
Because for me, now I'm only going to speak from my own experience, right? For me, there's always a fear that it may happen again,
Uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
And especially, and it takes a long time for a man to admit that, right? To say, man, it happened to me one time before. I really don't want to have to go through
To
that
go through
again.
that again. Yeah.
Mhm.
I could see
And
that.
yeah, I've never, I've never personally. I think that is the only loss that I've never experienced was
Yeah.
spousal loss, right? But when it comes down to like child loss, I know, I know that from the bottom of my heart. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's like, yeah, no, not doing this again. So I've actually steered clear of it for a very long time, and
Mhm.
still steer clear of it because I don't want to ever have to experience it again,
It
right?
has to be tough. It has to be tough, and I
So,
often wonder if, like, when I got diagnosed, was my father reliving some stuff?
right, right.
By the time I got breast cancer, my father was not well. He had had a stroke. My
Mm,
dad had a stroke in 2011, and so his mental capacity was fine, but his ability to always express what he was thinking or feeling was different. after the stroke. So,
Okay.
um, so I would ask him questions, but I always felt like I wasn't getting like the depth that I would have gotten before the stroke when it came to stuff like that. But I asked him if he was reliving moments, and he would say a little. Or one time I asked him, he said no. So I don't really know the full answer to that.
Yeah.
I am sure there had to be some replay, because I look a lot like my biological mother. I look a lot like my biological side of the family. So I'm sure he can see her in my face.
I can understand that. Now, let's reverse it. Did you have a fear when your father had a stroke? Did you have a fear that you was going to lose him?
Oh, absolutely. That was when it became real for me that I could lose him.
Mm, okay.
When he had his stroke, because he was Superman to me, and I hardly ever saw my father sick. I mean, like, even as something as simple as like having a like stomach virus or something like that, or having a cold, I never saw that. And if he was sick, that means there was a problem. And I'm going to tell you, I knew something was wrong with my father because the week he had the stroke, he got sick on his stomach. And I told my mother something's really wrong with him. It's serious, because he never gets sick on his stomach. And the only other time that I saw him get sick on his stomach that I remember, and it was severe, was when he was getting ready to transition last year, and he was sick on his stomach, and I knew it was serious, because he was always so strong. Even after the stroke, he was super strong. So yeah, that's when it became real for me that I could actually lose him, and things really changed then. I didn't want to go far. I didn't want to leave Richmond. I literally lived maybe 10 minutes from my parents before that. Now 2 minutes, not even. And so, yeah, yeah. To answer your question, that was when it became real.
Wow. Because we always think about those things, right? And again, I'm right there with you. I've lost my mother and my father, and so I look at life now just like wow, But you can always, well, it's hard to do, but it is possible to find the blessing in the time spent with
Yeah,
those individuals, right?
yeah.
And
I'm so happy for
how
that.
has that? Yeah, it can be. It does take a long time. It does take a great support system surrounding yourself with individuals, and I'm a huge supporter of people um, seeking therapy, right?
Yeah,
Like go,
go
please
to
go get that
therapy.
therapy.
Go to
Yeah,
therapy and go to the right therapist too. If it
yes,
just
yeah,
because you go to one therapist, that doesn't mean that's the one. You really may need to think about finding, or really, research and spend some time with one. Maybe if that doesn't work, don't get discouraged. Keep going, because I've had several therapists, but the one
mhm,
that I have now, I've had him for years. And I was telling my good friend yesterday that I didn't get hung up on gender, race, whatever. When I was looking for a therapist, and I'm not knocking anybody who wants a certain type of therapist, that's your business. But when I was looking for a therapist, I just needed to talk. So I didn't want to
yeah,
make any excuses about not buckling down and finding one. So I really didn't care what they looked like, where they were from. I needed to talk to someone that could help me. And he wound up being great. And I just have stuck with him.
nice. Now, and the reason I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because being from the South, growing up in a black community, it was so frowned upon to seek therapy, right? It was unheard of.
Mhm.
We just had this misconception, oh, you must be crazy,
Yeah.
things like that. So, in a lot of ways, people really avoided finding
Yeah.
going to a therapist and wanting to talk. As I've gotten older, I have a couple therapists.
But
This
you got for different reasons.
well, all different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Because for one, being someone in the grief field and doing the work that I do, I often, or individuals like myself, we often carry other people's sadness and pain with us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
become a vessel for them to dump all of this stuff on. And
Mhm.
so, and it can be triggering. So, of course, yes, you need someone to go and talk to, just so you can be able to release that back into the world. But also, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
I have one for the loss of my son, right?
Yeah.
Because every therapist has a different set of skills. So I have one for that. I
Got
have
it.
one for the loss of my parents. I have one for the loss of my younger brother. I have one that I could talk to about the things I had to deal with when I was incarcerated. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I also have one for dealing with the PTSD of being in the gangs for over 24 years.
Yeah.
All of the things that came along with that. Right.
Yeah.
So
That,
I have multiple ones.
yeah, I never thought about that. But as you're talking, I'm like, you do have different doctors. You don't go to
Right.
the primary care for your bones. You don't go to the
Right.
bone specialist for your eyes. You don't go to the eye doctor for
There
your
you go.
heart. And
Yeah.
so there's people who have these different specialties, and you might need to go to a different type of therapist for the different thing that you're dealing with.
Hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for that,
So,
Tony.
I mean, and the list goes on and on and on, right? Because you need someone to help you navigate the mental the mental challenges that may come along with that, right? So
Yeah,
you might want to go and have one specifically for that as well, right? Just to
yeah,
sit down and go, look, right now, I am starting this transition into a mental depression. So
yeah,
I need to go talk to this person over here, you know. And I'm very specific about the people that I talk to because I do understand the importance of having someone having someone that you can relate to. So
yeah,
that was like one of my requirements. Like I want someone that I could talk to that has gone through something similar that I've gone through. Just because. And plus, it's for me is educational, right? They may say something that I may not have known, or maybe we just can sit down and just have a genuine conversation. Most of my excuse me, most of my sessions go that way anyway. We just end up having a conversation. I'm just like, yeah, this, that,
yeah.
another.
But
So
isn't that's a good way to learn though, isn't it? Like if you're taught y'all are sharing things and some insights may come from that you never stop learning. Even if you
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like you're an
yeah.
expert in your space and even if you felt like it's something you have been dealing with for years, just like just now, you just gave me some insight about therapy. I never even thought about having different, even though there's like specific grief therapists and things like
Mhm.
that. I never thought about having different therapists ongoing, like the different specialties in medical, um,
Yeah.
with the medical
So
doctor.
it's the same concept of it, right? And there may be someone out there listening right now that's probably going, "Wow, I never thought about it that way." It's the same as support groups, right? So I tell people all the time, when you're looking for a support group, don't be afraid to, don't be afraid to find an exit out of it because you may be in the beginning stages of your walk of grief or trauma
Yeah.
recovery, healing, things like that, right? So you may get to a certain point in the group to where it's no longer beneficial for you,
Yeah.
right? So you go and find another one with people who have been, who may be a little bit further along than you. So you can learn these things, right? Surround yourself with people. But most importantly, Morgan, it's important to find people that speaks to your love language. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing as a therapist, right? You can go and find one of the best therapists, but if they can't speak to your love language, then you're not going to get a whole
It's not
lot
gonna
out of
resonate with you. Their
it.
style of therapy
Right.
won't
There
resonate.
you go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so which leads me now to my next question. How did how did your journey mold you into the person that you are today, like in your work and going into the military, things like that? How did it mold you? Because you have a strong sense of resilience and bravery with you.
Uh-huh.
Even behind that smile, I can see it. It's like you're not going to stop me, right? You're not going to stop me. So
I
how did
started
it
smiling, Tony,
mold
because
you?
that's a big question. We're gonna be on here all day if I tell you. You want to narrow that down. We're gonna
well,
be here all day if I tell you that. No.
well, because I always find it fascinating because your strength comes from having to go through some of the most challenging things in your life,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it puts you in a position to where you can make a choice. You can either let it beat you down or you can let it build you up. And so, okay, let's simplify it a little bit. How did it how did it grow your bravery, your
Yeah.
resilience?
Yeah. So I always say that if you look up the word resilient in the dictionary, my picture is probably my picture literally is probably right there, just like that big smile, right? But I didn't. If I think about it, I did not ask for that, and it is not always pretty, right? But you got two choices in life. You could either keep going. It's this simple. You could either keep going or not. And when like if you don't keep going, right? If you're gonna be here, like say you're gonna live, right? You're not dying today because we're talking. This is how I thought about it when I was going through. You're not dying today, so you can either keep going or you can just lay right here. You could just let it happen to you. Lay right here, shrivel up, stay in this corner. Because it was one day right after my diagnosis. I was so anxious that I couldn't sit still. Like I couldn't lay in a bed. I couldn't look at the TV. I really couldn't do anything. And hey, Alicia, I really couldn't do anything. And I was in the corner, like huddled in the corner, holding my legs, and I was just like, what am I going to do? Like I have cancer. I hadn't had the surgery or anything yet. And it was just like a still voice. I believe it was God that was like, you're not dying today, Morgan. Just like that. And so the message to me was, you got to keep moving. So what's next? Like I always ask myself, no matter what I'm going through, no matter how bad I'm feeling, because there are bad days, right? I try to let myself feel that instead of pushing it down, right? I try to let myself feel whatever I'm feeling. And then I ask myself, what's next? That's the question. What's next? And I think that is how I stay resilient. That's how I stay brave. I'm always trying to figure out what's next. Because as long as I can move, as long as I can breathe, as long as I am able to, I say this, as long as I'm able to swing my legs out this bed and plant my feet on the floor, it is something for me to do. And I
Right.
just got to figure out what that is every day and then go do it.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
that because I can relate to that on so many different levels. But it got me to thinking, because it does change. You have to redefine what your identity is, because you're not the person that you were, before the diagnosis. You're definitely not the person you was, what I'm saying, during the diagnosis or after the diagnosis, so I look at the transitional stages of it, and you're right. You have to ask yourself, what is next?
Yeah.
Because as long as we can get up and see another day, I always look at it and say, I have another day to do exactly what I love doing.
Yeah.
How can I change someone else's life through the things that I have experienced? But
Yeah.
most importantly, how can I go through these moments, these challenging moments, without making it about me?
Yeah. Yes,
Right.
because so much of what we go through has nothing to do with us. And I
Right.
I learned this lesson big during the cancer. And so
Right.
many people that came into my life and called me to encourage me. I mean, because that made a huge, huge difference. It wasn't just me telling myself, like, and just listening to these. If I would say it was all me, I'd be lying to you on this
Right.
podcast right now. People were calling me, people were planting seeds, people were sending me text messages, bringing me books, coming by the house, and just speaking life into me. And I just, it resonated with me that as the life was being spoken to me, I just remembered how much life I had left. And then I remembered how many people were touching me, which meant I had a lot more people. I had people to touch them and other people that weren't connected to me at the time. And I could use this experience to do that, because this experience really has nothing to do with me, because there's going to be somebody else that's going to get diagnosed with breast cancer. There's going to be somebody else that's going to be have a life altering experience. They're going to lose someone, and I will have already experienced that. And then whatever I learned, whatever I got from this experience, how I got through that, I can give to them to help them get to the next day, the next
Mhm.
page, on to the next thing.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Now, let's talk about your experience in HR, because you mentioned something earlier on in our conversation about having the bad experiences in HR, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have had the bad experiences in HR.
Uh-huh.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
That's a
Because there's somebody out there right now at their job going, if I ever catch them out in the parking lot, I'm going to punch them dead in the throat. We
yeah, yeah. This is
so
a good
let's talk
segue
about that a
from
little bit.
yeah, it's a good
What's
segue
that?
from like talking about what's next.
Because like that's just you gave me a pretty good like picture of who you were leading up into this moment, you
Yeah.
know, to become an HR for 15 years and, the experiences. So I can only imagine how much of a handful you could have been.
I'm still a handful, Tony. What you talking about?
No, no, no. For you to sit around and go, you know what? I don't like the way you just did that. So I would forget you. I'm going to do something totally different.
Well, you know what?
So
You know what, Tony? I'm very clear. I have a sorority sister. When I tell her stories, and she was the one that helped me see how clear I am. Like, because I for a while I was just kind of unaware of who I was and what I carry. Like, even how well I can express what I need and what I want to see happen. Like, I would just be talking and say, "This is what I would like to see happen. This is how like I get from A to B." I'm very, very clear, right? And she helped me realize that Morgan, sometimes your clarity is not like people aren't used to that, right? So you might have to be more aware of like how you're coming across and how that might resonate with someone else. That doesn't mean you tone down the clarity. It just means you're aware of it. Because when you're aware of how you are, what your triggers are, and how you come across, you can prepare for what's next, right? Because what was happening was me not being really aware of how clear and how my clarity may come across. I would be like taken aback by the response, like what, and then that would trigger more issue because of how they respond because of how
And
people respond to me.
so it
So
goes right back to what I just said. And you was a
yeah,
handful.
awareness, self-awareness is the key.
You say
Self-awareness.
self-awareness, I say handful.
Yeah. That's why
I
I
think
tell you I'm
we're
still a
both saying
handful.
the same thing, just in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, still a handful. I'm just more aware. I'm an aware handful.
I like the way you did that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm just aware, but I'm a handful, okay?
Yeah, see how I did that? Mhm.
And how did that mold your journey into becoming an HR representative that you are today?
Mm,
Because being aware of those challenges, having that mental clarity, of knowing, but also the experience, right?
yeah,
Because you became the change that you wanted to see
yeah,
from the experiences.
absolutely. So I became the change I wanted to see, and I try to teach leaders. This is kind of how my leadership and development, how I develop people. And then when I say leaders, I'm not talking about people who have a title. This has nothing to do with your title. It doesn't have anything to do with how much you make. When I am talking about a leader, if ever you hear Morgan Carey talking about a leader, I'm talking to the leader in you. No matter what your title is, no matter what you can be a stay-at-home mom. I am talking about the leader in you. Okay. And what I talk about when I'm developing you as a person or trying to develop you as a person, I'm talking about your awareness about yourself. The thing we just laughed about, because it's going to be hard for you to lead others and lead in your area and lead in your life if you can't lead yourself. And the only way
Right.
you can lead yourself is if you know and understand yourself. So it's time out for making excuses for why you are a certain way, why you said that, why you did that, why you didn't do that, why you didn't take action. You need to figure out why that is, sit with that and figure out what to do with it next so you can stop with all the excuses and work on developing yourself so you can be the success and be the person that you want to be. And all those things that I just described about my loss and who, like my life story, my father, my mother's, my friends, my support system, all of that makes up who you see right now. And that's what I carry into every office that I go into, every speech that I give, every interaction, every training and development that I give. All of those things make up Morgan Carey, the advocate for building better workplaces. Right. And that's what I give to the people that are talking to me. That's the human resources professional they get. The one that is going to challenge you, love you, tell you what, like, this isn't working. But let's talk about how we can make this work, you know. And this is how I create the connections that I create. And with the connections, you can help people grow. I hope that made sense. I feel like I said a lot.
No, no, you did, but it definitely made sense. I mean, I know there's people out there right now that are listening. We got a few people tuning in on Instagram, Facebook. There's some people
Hmm.
tuning in on YouTube that are just sitting back watching right now. Guys, like if you have any questions or comments for, maybe you could relate to what she said, put them in the comment section, right? You know what I'm saying? We'll be sure to answer them as we go, but most importantly, thank you guys for tuning in as well. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? All the love and
Thank
respect to
you
you
for being
guys
here.
taking the time out your day to just enjoy these conversations. Um, so, which leads me, to my next question. Being a podcaster, what was when did you say that what we need to have more conversations around these things?
Yeah. Actually, I had a podcast before with my good friend in Sorrel. We had a podcast, but it was a little bit more casual. So we got into podcast because we felt like we had a lot to say. We were on the phone talking to each other. We're like, girl, we should go ahead and record these. Shout out to Nadia Salam. We should go ahead and record these, and because we have such great conversations, right? And so we did that. We did that for a couple years, and it was great. And we took a little break, and then we decided, hey, maybe move into a different direction. And I want to talk more about the professional things, right? And how I can help people build better workplaces, right? And I have a whole lot to say, and I love where I work, and I'm making a difference where I work my 9 to 5, but I can make more of a difference if I can talk to more people. And what's the best way to get my message out to a lot of people as quick as possible? Start a podcast. Let's start a
Hmm.
podcast. And then I can
No,
get on a podcast and I can talk about how the message of HR is skewed, right? That was the original thought. Is the message is skewed because when people think of HR, I have heard someone say like HR is inherently evil. And I took it personally. And I was like, evil? It can't be evil because I'm an HR person, not Morgan, right? So I said, I have to figure out how to unskew. I know that's not a word, I made it one. I have to figure out how to unskew this message, right? Because HR is not evil. HR is where love lives because I live here. You know, I live here. Love
I
lives
see that. I love it. I love it. But as you were saying that, like I said, everybody there's people out there that have those horror stories
here.
about HR, right? Because no one, a friend of mine was telling me he had a really good job working at the government, and he got that hey, HR needs to see you type thing one day,
Yeah. Hmm.
and he had been at this job for almost 22 years, 23 years. And he goes up there, never had a write up, never always, did his job. He was really good at what he did, working for the government. And they let him go. No prior warning or anything like that, no excuse, or no reasoning. And so, he was probably one of those dudes like, you know what, screw HR, they're evil
Hmm.
type thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, how would you how would you approach someone who has had that sort of experience? To speak to the leader in them to let them know, like, not everybody is the same.
Yeah. But it's like anything, right? I'm sure we've had bad experiences at a restaurant. We've had bad experiences at church. We've had bad experiences at certain jobs. We don't stop looking for jobs. We don't stop going on new jobs because we have bad managers. You're going to have a manager wherever you go, probably. So you don't stop going to work. So, and I say, well, let's try to be the change we want to see, right? And there's nothing you could do about that person. Like, we can't manage that person's behavior. We can't make that person be better, but we can take responsibility for what's happening to us and with us, right? For like how we handle what's happening to us, right? If you are dealing with a HR person or organization that isn't treating you well, I say put your manager on a PIP. Put the whole organization on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. And people look at me crazy when I say that. Put my manager on a PIP. How am I put my manager on a PIP? I'm gonna tell you how you're gonna do it. You decide. You see all these things that are happening, just like they take note of all the things that you do in the place. You take note of all the things that they do. And I'm not telling you to go give it to them, because that's probably gonna get you fired, right? You just want to take inventory. You want to take inventory of those things. Right. And if these things are deal breakers for you and you are at your wits' end, the same way you go through a progressive discipline at work, you got a written warning, a final warning. We're going to put you on a performance improvement plan and say, if this doesn't improve by such and such date, I'm out of here. You don't have to announce that to them. This is for you, because you are going to take responsibility for what happens to you. And if you are working in a place that doesn't serve your highest good, you need to get out of there. Right? You need to get out of there, because there are bad representations of in every industry, everywhere. So you may run into an HR person that's not great. That doesn't say you don't throw the whole profession away, because there are a lot of us that are great. Many of us go into HR because we want to help people. What we learn to do is to help people. Any textbook, any certification, any program that you go to for HR, we're talking about how to be a positive influence and a positive impact on people's lives. What happens is, between learning and execution, sometimes we get hooked in companies and organizations and with other people who want to turn HR into what they want it to be. Okay. And they want to have, I'm going to have HR, but you're going to do what I say. So you report to the CEO or the finance or whoever is in charge, and they weaponize HR. And this has been happening for years and years and years, and it's just been passed down. So now the message that gets to the employees at maybe the mid to lower level, they're like, HR is bad. They only serve the company. They only care about the company. And that was not the purpose of human resources. It was never the purpose of human resources. It's still not. But every now and then you come across really strong HR people like Morgan. And,
I love
and they're
it.
here
I
to
love
set
it.
the record straight, to let you know that, yes, I care about the company, and so should you, because you work here, right? No company, no money for you. Yes, I care about the company, but I also care a lot about you, and I care a lot about how the company treats you. And when these doors are closed, I am in there telling them, no, you can't do that. You can't do that to her. You can't do that to him. This is the strategy we need to follow. Now, can I promise they always going to follow what I say? No, but I can promise you there's me, and there are other HR professionals behind those closed doors trying to fight for the well treatment and the betterment of the employees.
Okay. Okay. One of the things I started doing with my organization, I started going around to a lot of companies because we found a gap, right? We found a gap, and we started advocating for them to partner with like local organizations to fill those gaps that maybe HR or management didn't look at, right? Like bereavement services, right?
Mhm.
Saying, hey, you deal with this over here, let us deal with this over here, right? Maybe, and maybe just to be able to lessen the load a little bit so they can so they can focus more on their employees and running a successful company, right? Right, what I'm saying, without the burden of trying to figure out the XYZs of everything. And a lot of people were on board with it, and I've talked to several HR individuals, and when Ann was like, oh, okay, let's sit down. And individuals just like yourself, Morgan, that was just like, look, this is out of the spectrum of what we understand right here, and we go, okay, let us take on the burden of this over here. Let us come in once a month and, bring in different representatives from different people. That way, when things do come about, you know, you have the resources that you need in order to build a stronger relationship, not only with your employees, but with the community that you're in. Because I'm a huge supporter and advocate of the community that you in is taking recognition about how you treat the people in the community,
Yeah.
right? Because those people work there with you, right? And so, and it's looking like it's starting to catch on a little bit more.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts and opinions on things like that? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like building those connections with like the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, any type of I feel like community and connection is gonna bode well for for the development of them and you. And I think one of the advantages I have is working for and being more connected to mission driven organizations. I really believe that's one
Mhm.
of the reasons why people don't always like where they work is because there's no mission tied to the work for them. They're just kind of showing up and going through the motions. But a lot of times with nonprofits and things like that, there's a mission attached to it, which helps people like where they work. And if you like where you work, you're more invested in how things go day to day, and
Mhm.
it could be more family oriented as well because like with families, if you love your family, you know you're gonna fall out, right? But you put in the effort to bring it back. You're not just ready to head on out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
sort of relationship building. And,
Absolutely. And you want to put in the effort to do the things like you just said, build the things that keep the people engaged and keep them there.
yeah. Now I want to talk to the educational part of the educational certification challenges that some HR may be lacking in, where you pick up at and go, hey, let's focus on these things. I know skill building is one of them, but other things, that could be added to HR to improve how they function. What would you suggest to those HR individuals that may just be lacking in those different areas to help build them up?
Psychology, people
Mm,
psychology. I
okay,
think
okay.
that more HR, and this isn't talked about a lot in the HR field, but we in HR, we're so many things. So some people come in and they're carrying so much, and they're like, I need to talk to somebody. And human resources is usually the
Mhm.
first place that they go, right? Or their supervisor is going to send them over to human resources. And I think it's important to understand how the brain works in order to help support people. Right, how emotions work, how feelings work, how them coming to work with whatever was they're dealing with at home is going to affect them at work. I'm super fascinated with how people think and emotions and
Yeah, me too.
intelligence level, emotional intelligence. All of those things fascinate me, which is one of the reasons why I really love working in human resources and dealing with people, hence the name, the People Power Project, because the initiative is to take all the things that make up who people are and figure out how we could continue to make better workplaces with those things. Like people are bringing their grief to work. This whole idea of like leave it at the door, that doesn't work. It does not
Yeah,
work. And so anybody
no,
that's still any organization or manager or HR person that's still subscribing to that view, you come up, come on, speed up to the time.
right.
Join us over here on this side that is talking about how the whole person is coming to work. Now, I say this and I always have to say, that doesn't mean you do the same thing at work that you would do at home or at the park, at the party. Of course, we handle ourselves differently in different places.
Mhm.
But I am still, whoever I am at the party, I am still Morgan at work. I'm still Morgan at the party. I'm still Morgan at home. I'm all these elements that make up me. I am still that person. Well, that is true for everybody that's coming into work. So whatever they were dealing with last night at home or the loss that they experienced, when I lost my
Mhm.
father last year and it was time to come back to when it was time to come back to work, I was still carrying the same grief. No, I wasn't curled up in my bed, like I'm in my office as if I was at home in the bed, but that same grief that I had at my house is still with me now in my office. So what do we do with that? This person is still walking around with whoever they are and whatever they've experienced at work. And it's important that we're paying attention to that. And I think learning how these things work, grief, psychology, therapy, learning more about these things as a human resources
Mhm.
professional is super important because you can't just treat people like they're cogs in a wheel. They are people,
Right.
humans.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad that you said that, because that's one of the reasons why I started integrating working with larger companies and things like that, because there's an educational piece, having someone come in, a representative from those organizations, to you know um, host a class,
Yeah,
facilitate a class, right, to help learn those skills, those important skills, to help you connect with the people that you're with, but to also have to build some empathy and a deeper understanding of what you just said. It
yeah,
doesn't stop when you leave the house. It's carried with you, and it
yeah.
can affect the way that they perform.
Mhm.
So these things need to be taken in. I know most companies are like, well, we're all about the bottom line, making the money and things like that. Well, money is not everything when you don't have anybody to, go in there and build the cars, or to chop that lumber, or to
Exactly.
do that data entry, right?
Exactly. And you'll get more, the whole point is to maximize productivity. When you have a bottom line, you need to
Hmm.
maximize the productivity, right? Well,
Hmm.
you will get more out of your people if you care more about your people. My mom always
Exactly.
has this little saying that I don't know if you've heard it before, that you get more bees with honey than with
Hmm.
vinegar.
Hmm.
More people should subscribe to this philosophy because coming
Yes.
coming down with a hammer, or being rude, or not being considerate, and not being empathetic, and all the things that make up a person, is not going to get you anywhere. People get disengaged. They're looking to leave before they even start, sometimes, because they
Hmm.
realize what the environment is and what is important to them. But I've recently had some good experiences, where I work now. I love where I work. The environment is family, like almost like a family, right? And like I
Hmm.
said, when you have a family fallout and you come back together, and you always make sure things get done. That's how I would characterize this environment, where you don't always get along. Everything is not perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. It's more like progress. And so we work really well together, no matter what the issue is. And um, when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to go through chemotherapy and work, and many people have this struggle, and they wind up having to take unpaid time off, or losing their job. And my manager at the time was one of the most heart led, she still is one of the most heart led, um, empathetic people that I knew as a manager and as a people leader. And she didn't hesitate. And she was like, take the time that you need, and then when you can, just work from home. Stay right there and work from home. I never had to take time off just to take my to have surgery, but I never really had to lose a lot of time for work. I never, when I say take time off, I'm talking about unpaid leave. Took PTO, no unpaid leave. And I was able to continue. I never missed a paycheck. And a lot of it had to do with her empathetic nature, because she was like, I understand. Take care of you.
Love that.
Yeah, and I
Love
think
that.
more, and because of that, she got more out of me. Because of that, she
Exactly.
got way more out of me. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this, but I can remember going into my mastectomy and answering an email about payroll, because nobody else was doing payroll but me, because I was still working. So they didn't figure
Hmm.
out who was going to do my job, because I was still technically working. But I was committed to this place. I was committed to this environment, because I felt like they were committed to me.
Right.
And it was because of her decision to care.
I love that. I love that. Now, I want to ask the question that most people are probably thinking and wondering right now, because we live in a day and age now where technology has changed,
Yeah.
and AI has become the focal point of a lot of people's conversations.
Mhm.
How are you and those individuals like yourself approaching the challenges that come with integrating AI into the workforce? Because I know there's a lot of fear of AI taking over or replacing people.
Yeah.
people's positions. How are you and those like yourself approaching that challenge right now?
For me, I love AI. And for me, I it helps me a lot. It helps me save time. And I said this when it first became a phenomenon, everybody talking about it, and there was more resistance. I think some more and more people are coming around because I think they don't have a choice. But I really thought this train is moving. We got to figure out how to get on it. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's, it's leaving with or without us, right? And so the
Yeah.
best thing to do is to embrace it and figure out, instead of getting mad at AI and saying, it's going to take the jobs and kind of feeling defeated. I think the move is to figure out how the train can't leave without you.
Mm-hmm.
Use AI to your advantage, right? Because I don't think it's going to replace human resources anytime soon. I think people will say that. I think there's maybe some functions that it can replace, but it just can't replace the human side of human resources. It's still,
Right.
a lot of the ideas and elements that we put into AI to get the results that we get is because it came from me. I may put some things in AI that I need them to help me shape, but it's
Mhm.
my idea. And I think that will be missing if you take the people out of it. I think they're gonna try. They're trying. They're gonna try. And I think
Oh
this
yeah.
is a mistake, and they're gonna realize they still need the people.
And I'm glad that you said that because I was just talking to someone the other day, and you can say he's one of the pioneers of AI, right? And he was explaining something to me, and I said the same thing. I said, man, I'm not too worried about AI because it'll never replace. Um, exactly, Carolyn said it right there. Personally, most people are afraid of AI.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did post that. He goes, you know what? His AI, he developed it to a point to where his AI almost know him better than anyone else. Like
Yeah.
he could go in and and ask certain questions, and his AI will pump out things because it is consistently learning. And I did say the same thing. I said, man, look, AI will never be able to replace the empathy or compassion of a human being, no
Yeah.
matter how much it learns or anything like that. And so I get where the other side is coming from. There's a lot of people that are afraid right now that it can. And I'm going to go to something that I saw the other day, um, where AI started implementing emotions
Yeah. And
into
I
its
think that's why people
program.
scared. I understand
Right,
that. That
right,
is scary.
right. And so I was like, and then um, it began to it began to portray traits of jealousy, right,
Uh-huh.
towards this individual. And it's the things that it was saying. I was like, yeah, no, this is going too far.
It's a little scary. It's a little scary. I'm gonna tell you one thing. The one aspect of AI I don't like right now. I'm a professional personal development junkie, right? So I will go on YouTube and look at motivational videos, stuff like that. I'll probably do that more than I watch regular TV shows. One of my favorite motivational speakers, personal development speakers, is named Jim Rohn, right? Jim Rohn is dead and
Yeah,
gone. He's dead
yeah.
and gone. I do not like when whoever makes these YouTube channels and they put his voice on whatever their concepts are. I'm like, because I've listened to so many of his speeches, I almost know them by heart, right? I'm like, he didn't say
Hmm.
this, but it's his voice, right? And they may be
Yeah,
talking about some new age something like, I don't know, some phenomenon like narcissism, right? He wasn't
yeah.
talking. He never did no whole speech on narcissism.
No.
So this whole YouTube presentation for an hour with Jim Rohn's voice talking about narcissism gets on my nerves. I don't like that. Them putting other people's voices on their thoughts. I don't like that.
You're right.
But again, it's a train that's moving. So we,
Yeah,
we
it,
have
it
to
is a trend.
figure out how to use it to your advantage and figure out how the train doesn't leave you. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like.
So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But I think the polls are 50-50 on all ends, and things like that, because they're, in some places I've seen what they have done behind the scenes with AI and implementing them into robotic technology, and putting them on production lines and things like that. And I've seen some of the impact that is having, right? Replacing
Mhm.
people and things like that. And I always tell people, learn how to repair it, right?
Yeah.
Because regardless if it's a machine or not, is if it goes down, you're gonna need somebody to go in and be able to repair those things. So learn
Yeah.
those things. But also, here's something that they have been talking about is replacing replacing people with replacing people with artificial intelligence that can become an artificial spouse or
Mhm.
partner with you in life. And so people are looking at, if they do that, human productivity is going to go down, right? You know what I'm saying? As far as what we, I
Well,
mean, this is
yeah,
this is crazy, Carolyn, you're right. It's so much to unpack regarding AI.
it's
It's
so
so
much.
many different levels, so much that's going on right there. Nannies, yep. Again, right there, nannies, right? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
That
Babies,
human connection
babysitters,
is
right,
trying to be lost, but now that part I don't subscribe to that because I'm all
right.
about connection and community. I think you need humans to do that. So again,
Well,
figuring out how this train can't leave you. So we gotta get
exactly.
creative. They get more and more creative with the AI, but that means we gotta get out. We can't be this whole, narrative of I'm just be in the house. I'm in the house. I'm in the bed
Right.
you know, no, we gotta get out and connect. And I'm talking to myself too, by the way, because I love to be in the house.
Look, I'm an introvert, right? I'm a strong introvert, and so I spend a lot of my times reading. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I love going to the gym, things like that. And unfortunately, well, fortunately for me, I don't do the whole order online things
Mhm.
unless it's something that I really need or something like that. That's the only time I do it. But other than that, I go to the grocery store. I do all of my shopping in person. I want to see you, right?
Right.
Because I may have questions, things like that. A lot of times I don't. A lot of times I just want to see you, all right?
Yeah.
So a lot of that comes into play.
And
And
people have to
I mean,
continue to I made light of staying in the house and things like that, but this really is deeper than that. It really has to do it continues the people development. This is why I'm really passionate about people development because people exactly, COVID did that to us, sheltered us, but what happened is people aren't developing themselves either because they're not interacting. The part of being a like people development is connecting with other people. If you don't have to
right,
connect with anybody else, you don't have to prepare yourself to do anything. Think about it. If I'm in the house all the time, I don't have to worry about what types of conversations I'm having, who I'm going to meet, how I present myself, how I get myself together. You don't have to do any of that if you're just kind of staying to yourself. Right. And so it creates this atmosphere where automated things and AI can take over in spaces that we're kind of shying away from. Right.
right.
And if we don't continue to develop ourselves, we can't present our best selves. You don't present your best self, nobody wants to be around you. So everybody just starts isolating themselves because then you
Right.
got people who are they're insecure because they're not doing things or they're not developing themselves or they aren't, and then that breeds more insecure people, right? Insecure people usually
Hmm.
raise insecure people. People who are
Right.
unaware usually raise unaware people, and we're just continuing a cycle. But it has to stop somewhere. We all, even as adults, it's not too late to start developing yourself and your awareness and your ambition and all of those things. If we begin to create betterment in ourselves, then we will begin to create other better people and more better people and better people, all of that.
Yeah. I want to
Social media.
piggyback off of those two statements right there. I think COVID. Um, I'm not going to completely blame COVID and everything, and the reason being is because the thought of AI has been around since. the 80s, right? If you actually really think about it, they were already pushing that agenda through movies like Star Wars or Star Trek, right? So the technology has always been there. It has been reintroduced to us several times over and over and over again. If you actually really think about it, the technology is being recycled. People have become more accepting of it now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. COVID did play a role in it and everything, but I think it just paved the way for it to be more accessible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you think about it, movies like Terminator and things like that came out for a reason. The technology has always been there. It wasn't a foreign concept. Now, social media, on the other hand, it made it easier for people to build a false lifestyle,
Exactly. I
right?
just
It made it easier for that, right? And people became more in tune because it gave us access to people from across the world to see what they were doing. And when you know how easy it is to go out and take a picture of you standing in front of a Ferrari or something like that, and no one says anything to you. That's that that it became more, it became easier to people for people to build a fantasy life behind that. And when you have people who don't go out into the world because games became more
mm-hmm.
realistic, right? You know what I'm saying? And then the fear of, and I hate to say it this way, the fear of sending your kid to school, the
Mm-hmm.
fear of going to a grocery store because you don't know what's going to happen. All of these things play a part in us becoming more reliant on the ease of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
people was like, oh, I can stay safe. So the human interaction became less more a lot more disconnected in that. And so we as people, as Morgan said, we have to get back into going out and interacting with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the challenges that came along with it. We got a couple of comments that I'm going to speak on from Golden Widow Dula from Instagram. Um, they worked all through that as full spectrum doula at a funeral home, living in the woods in a hexagon. Yes, so things like that, you still need people to be able to do things like that, right? There's that
Yeah.
human connection. A friend of mine showed me as Claude 10-4 homeschooled my child, and we apparently were ready for that time. Right. So, you know what I'm saying? So, again, all of these different things, the way that people moved, and became um, accepting of it
Mm-hmm.
because of fear of something that was going to happen. So we, as people, although the technology is there, we still have to take some sort of accountability for the acceptance of what's coming.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to everything that we do, but please
Everything.
keep in mind that it's not the first time that it's been introduced. 80s, 70s, 80s babies were, you know what I'm saying, we're outside majority of the time, so we didn't rely on those things. The 2000 babies moving forward are more technical generation, and we as parents push that on them as well, right? To keep our kids safe, to keep us safe, because no one wants the news that we often get so many times
Yeah.
that we become desensitized to, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of ways, I think there's a long ways to go, but with AI growing as rapid as it is, we have to figure out a way. We have to figure out
Yeah.
a way to get back to the human connection, to reading books, to grow along with it, right? But not be controlled by it. Because if you have an AI, you can ask it certain things and it will tell you something that would freaking scare you, but it will also make you think about, about what is, because it's,
Yeah.
it's designed to play chess with you. And if you don't know any moves on the chessboard, well, it's going to be easy to be checkmate, right? I Robot, right?
Yeah. You talking about the movie?
Yeah, I Robot, right? The movie, right? You know what I'm saying? Like everything that you have to understand, everything that you know about it, there are rules that are governed within AI, which prevents it from doing certain things. But if there's no backdoor in it to shut it off, well, we got Terminator
We
now,
got we
right?
got a problem.
We
We
got a
got
problem,
and that's
you
my
know?
that's one of my fears that the stuff getting out of control, like on
Yeah,
AI, on iRobot. Yeah, but
Yeah, exactly, right? So, you know what I'm saying? And if you look at, if you, because I'm a huge, look, I read all the time. I'm constantly looking at, what they're doing over in China and, a lot of other companies that have been doing that. They've been building robots to go to war. They've been
mhm,
building robots to do all kinds of things, right? You know what I'm saying? To be a companion. And yes, go to Milladula. Yes, they are developing a technology to where AI can have a body with
yeah,
realistic features. Like if we look at the Super Bowl, right? They had AI in the seats that looked like people,
mhm,
especially during COVID. They were like, oh, and guess what? They're using the image of you to do it.
yeah.
So you may be looking at it going, I wasn't even there, but why does
Wasn't
that
there,
look
but
like
there I
me?
am. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
So and
your
they're
voice and
right, and they're
everything.
making it realistic in everything. Where I hate to say it, but the anatomy that they've come up with will blow your mind.
Yeah.
So please
You
be
told me
careful.
they working on it. They're working on, I knew
No,
what they meant when you
they're
said
not
they're
just
working so you
working
don't
on
have
it.
to have a companion.
Yeah, right. Well, have you seen? Have you? Okay. See, I don't want to get too far into the conversation, but I want to just put this out there for everyone.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen the models of the men and women that they have? That is crazy, right?
I
You
have
know what I'm
not
saying?
seen
And
this. You just put me on to something new.
yeah,
I haven't
so
seen it. I
um,
understood what you meant when you said it the first time.
yeah, and there's a movie coming out. There's a movie coming out right now that I think a lot of people should really watch. And I'm gonna give you a basic concept of it. You guys have maybe seen the trailers of it and everything, but a man and a wife were having problems.
Hmm.
The woman was having problems with, what I'm saying, housework. She was focusing on her career, so she went out and bought a female maid for the house.
Oh, you took this
And
movie. This is a movie.
yeah, it's a movie. It's a
Uh-huh.
movie, but it's a
What's her
realistic
name?
movie. That's I can't remember the name
She
of
was
it,
on
but there's
Transformers.
trailer.
I can't think of her name
Huh?
right now. She was on
Right, right.
Transformers. The girl.
She was on Transformers, right? And but it
I might have
what
seen her
ended
then.
up happening is that the robot began to take care of the husband, and the
In many ways.
husband
I
in
saw
many
the movie.
ways.
I
Yeah,
saw
right. Okay, so you saw the movie, and the
I
husband
did.
slept with the wife, and
Uh,
the robot ended up taking the role of the wife.
yeah.
And long story short, the husband said, "You know what? I'm in love with the robot. I think you and I need to get a divorce."
Mm.
Ooh, so something to think about. Okay, just something to think about. The reality of it
Right.
is that they putting it out in front of you. Be careful how you move. All right, be careful how you move, but learn how to move with it, please. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's becoming a reality a lot quicker
So how
than
far away
anything else.
from that do you think? How close to something like that do you think we are?
Not even 2 years out. Not
Like
even two years
it's
out.
not 2 years out. So within the next two
It's
years,
not
we
even
will
two
be
years
able to
out.
have some companions
Uh-huh.
and
Hmm.
nannies
Hell,
for the
you can
baby.
buy a robotic dog. You can buy a robotic dog. You can buy a robotic pet, right? Realistically,
Yeah.
they look they look just like animals, right? But they don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't poop or pee, right? They're just a companion with you, and they have realistic hair, but they're realistic companions with you now, right? You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, there's you could probably look it up, but you can actually order one for like emotional support, and they don't
The
die.
robotic dog or the robotic person?
Both. Well, the robotic person is coming. I know that
I hear you.
Elon has developed something that should be out on the market within like the next year or so. That's going to resemble a person. right? But you can actually order the dogs and the cats right now. They don't die. But they're
You
for
just get to keep
emotional
them
support,
forever.
right? So
But
we're
there has
very
to be
close
an
to it.
element. There has to be an element of a real dog missing. I know there's a lot of amazing things that AI can do. Like even
Well,
something as simple as like Chat GPT. I'm usually amazed at what they say back to me. Like they like a friend.
yes,
They're like a
right,
friend these days. But there's
right,
something
right.
missing.
There's always going to be something missing. But now let's look at where they're playing on. They're playing on the human side of your emotions, right?
Hmm.
So when you go and order a dog or a cat or something like that, it's for emotional support.
Hmm.
They want people want to feel that companionship, and a lot of times people have a hard time connecting with other people. Maybe life has mistreated them. Maybe, saying they're tired of being hurt. Maybe they've gone through so much trauma that they have a hard time getting close to other people.
And
So
that's
of
where we
course they're
need to
looking
continue
for,
to do the work.
right,
Right there.
exactly. So they're
Right. That's what
playing
I was saying.
on, right, they're playing on the emotional side of that. And so when you can go into that, what's going to be easier? You going out and trying to connect with another person, or knowing that you have something that's going to be there with you that's not going to hurt you.
Hurt
It's a
you,
safety net,
disappoint you,
right? You
manipulate
get
you,
to,
all those
right.
things.
So you begin to put your trust in something like that, right? So again, you're right. It's real close, and the movies are coming out to prepare you for what's coming. They always have done this, and
Yeah.
will continue to do this. So it's not such a shock when it's introduced to you,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. There you go. Vulnerability will have you with the will have you with the robot. Jeez, yes, yes.
Yeah,
This is mind blowing.
absolutely,
So
Carey.
again,
But what we
it
gonna
when
do about
you
it? Because see, I'm a person that I think this is what I think happens on social media, right? We talk about it, we say all the problems. Like, for example, when people there is phenomenal, you can go to the whole side of TikTok where we talking about people being manipulative, narcissistic.
there
Now
you
they got the
go.
avoidant, the attachment styles and all of that, right? So what I have noticed is that a lot of us just want to sit around and gripe about the things that we notice. Oh, this person
Hmm.
is avoidant. This person is narcissist. This is how a narcissist is going to treat you. These are 5 signs of this. That's great. I don't need any more videos about the 5 signs of these negative things. What I want, I'm a solutions oriented person. So what
Hmm.
I want to
Hmm.
hear is what's the 5 solutions to the 5 signs? That's what I want to know. So if we got AI, like I said, the train is moving. AI is going. No need to be worried about the robot that they're gonna create that I don't want them to create because they're gonna create it. What
Well,
are we gonna do about
Morgan, you
the
said
things that are
something.
that are getting lost?
But you said something,
What I say?
right? You said something. How you're tired of the narcissist, right? You're tired of the negativity that comes along with that and things like that. Well, how many people out there are tired of it as well?
Yeah,
And so when you sick and tired of being sick and tired of the same thing,
yeah.
and you have an alternative, what do
That's what
you
they're
think people?
doing. They're
What do you
creating
think?
the solution with that.
Right. So
Mhm.
now let's play out a scenario. Let's play out a scenario. A person is depressed, lonely, right? You spoke to Chat GPT and you were surprised at what it says back to you.
Uh-huh.
So how easy it is for ChatGPT to create an AI generated individual that you can feel comfortable with talking to, that's going to speak life and love into you, because now you fed it so much, it has your personality, it understands what you need, and it's going to give you exactly that. So
Mhm.
is it is
Maybe
it is it
somebody, Tony, maybe
what
somebody, but ChatGPT, I be talking to ChatGPT, okay? And they don't give me
see
enough.
again?
They're not giving
Again,
me enough. I still,
they're not
after I
giving you
finish talking to
enough,
ChatGPT, let me tell
but
you, I
you
still got to call Nadia.
but hold on. But now check this out though. Check this out though. What about the person that don't have an idea?
That's true.
What about the person that don't have that individual? Most men in the world, and I'm speaking
Mhm.
from my own experience. Most men in the world feel as if they can't talk to someone. They feel as if we have to go through life alone. I just saw a video the other day. Um, this guy, this guy, good dude, but he's been hurt so much.
Yeah.
He's been hurt a lot, right? And he's lonely. He's going, man, I just want somebody to talk to. I want somebody that's going to tell me that everything is going to be okay. I want someone that's going to tell me that they love me. I want someone that's going to just listen to me. But he can't find it in a person. So you know what he did? He's in a vulnerable state. He talked to ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT talked back to him.
Yeah.
And guess what?
What's that?
He got what he needed from ChatGPT.
Right.
So he's no longer looking for a person to talk to confide in. He's not looking for a human connection anymore, right? Because although it's a computer programming, it made him feel good.
It might make him feel good for the time period.
Listen.
Oh, I'm
Because
listening.
I know what you're going to say. Does that matter? No.
What
The
doesn't matter?
point is, it doesn't matter that's going to give him what he needs temporarily. AI is consistently learning. Is he going to go back to try to find that in someone else? No, he's not.
How do
Why?
we know?
Because
How do we know?
because he's still doing it.
Well, we all
He
gonna.
still,
It's not
he
supposed to go away.
he goes to
It doesn't
work
have
every
to
day.
go away. It doesn't have to
Right.
go away, Tony. But it could be a great foundation. Like I just said, it can start with talking to ChatGPT and it giving you some suggestions. But what I have learned a lot of times is that ChatGPT will round it up with, maybe you could talk to someone. Maybe you could, reach out to a friend. Maybe you could build a support system. It does. I think it's pretty good as a foundation.
It's really good as a foundation. And again, I'm just bringing the other spectrum to it right now.
I like that.
Right?
I like
You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I'm doing. I'm just bringing the other set of reality to it, right?
Yeah.
People want to be heard. Some people aren't looking to be fixed. People want to feel. People want to
That's
feel.
it right there. That's
Right.
it
They're
right
not
there.
looking to be fixed. They
They're
just
not
want to
looking
be
for
heard.
solutions. That's what I was just saying a few minutes ago. They just want to
There
vent.
you go.
Just
So
want to vent.
now
They don't
let's look at the sequence of events in the world today. Right? People have been hurt beyond measure. So it's going to be a challenge, especially when you can get something from this over here without the hassle of this over here. At some point in life, we have to decide what's important to us.
Yeah.
Human connection or just the feeling of being heard.
I think you can't do that without developing. This is where the
There
development
you
comes
go.
from. They can't
But
make that decision until they have more
they're not trying
introspection
to.
and development time with themselves
They're not trying to. They're not trying to.
to be
They're
developed.
they're playing on your emotional side of it, right?
Who's not trying to? AI is not trying to.
Well, some people are not trying to be able to do that. They're looking for a solution to what they're feeling, and they develop something that could play on the emotion of human nature.
They don't know.
There
They
you
don't know.
go. So
They
a
don't
lot of people, and again, this is why AI is developing as fast as it is, with the way that they're taking in the directions that they're taking it in. And again, this is all part of those things, right? You know what I'm saying? To say, you know what? I'm tired of losing animals. Maybe I could go get an AI dog, and that dog's going to be with me forever. I can go get a cat. That cat's going to be with me forever.
That's
Oh,
Tony, that's an
oh.
attachment disorder.
And
That right
again,
there is
you
an
just
attachment
said it.
disorder.
You just said it. It's an attachment to it, right?
Yeah, there's an
So
attachment. That's an
again,
attachment
it
disorder.
doesn't change the way you feel about it.
That's true. That's
Doesn't
true.
change the way you feel about it, right? What
You
about the guy that's been alone, or the woman that's been alone for 20-something years?
absolutely. So you're just describing the way that AI or the developers are
Yes,
exploiting these disorders
yes,
and
and that's
our human
that's
feelings.
all I'm
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying.
Mhm,
That's all I'm
mhm.
saying, right? They're giving people options. They're
Yeah.
giving people options. And if a person can choose from being hurt than having the feeling. Now, there's a difference between love and having the feeling of being loved and heard and cared for, like someone cares about you. Which one do you think they're going to choose?
Yeah, but it's all a temporary fix.
But it could be just a temporary fix, but it's a fix nonetheless.
Yeah, and it's how I mean that is exactly how they're winning with the development. But the people who are
So
the people who are being exploited, they will continue to find that's not going to relieve the issue because the issue is in them. You can buy you can do as many external things as you want. Until you
mhm.
develop yourself, you'll be right back there. There'll be another reason that
Well,
mechanical dog or cat can't fix. It'll be
let's
something
let's
that.
add a let's add a different element into it. Okay,
Mhm.
addiction.
Yeah,
It's just an addiction,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
just like any addiction that you have, you tend to want more and more and more
Mhm.
and more.
Which all comes from attachment problems.
So it's just you just said it
Yeah,
again. All of these things play into it, right?
yeah, yep.
So again, if
Just like
you're
drug
getting what
creators
you
and drug
need,
dealers
there,
exploit
there,
that,
there
it's the
you
same thing.
go.
Exactly.
There you go. And it's really just that simple.
Yeah.
It's really just that simple, right? So again, it's one of those things that you said it in the beginning. The train is moving, but I don't think anybody really factored in all of the other things that come along with it, right? You know what I'm saying? So now you have to put yourself in a situation to where, as you said, the tools that need to be developed and learning how to use it in a way to where it's beneficial from you,
Beneficial
but
to your
it's
success.
not an
Yeah.
attachment and take away from the human connection of it,
And that's our
of
responsibility.
people that
Yeah.
there
That's
you
our
go.
responsibility. The ones that
There
notice
you
what's
go.
happening, the ones that are aware, and we can help the other people who aren't so aware. Again, because whatever
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with, whatever you're going through, whoever you are has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the people around you and what you can share.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
again, it's the same things. I'm just bringing a different element to the table to think about, right? Because again, do you ever hear that statement? You never know what the next person is going through,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right? So, it's just something to put in. These are things that need to be factored in as moving forward. So, you want to know how we move with the train? Factor in those things as a human being. That's it.
Yeah, and
Factor in
stay
it,
aware.
right?
Think about all the things you just said and everything that we said on here. Stay because the best tool for just about anything is awareness. Awareness, awareness of
Mm-hmm.
yourself, awareness of your surroundings. Because you can't do anything if you don't know. That's why I said they don't know when I made that statement. And one of the most dangerous places to be is unaware. The most dangerous way to be is to be unaware. It's why we have a lot of the issues that we have is for lack of awareness.
Well, there's a few statements that was put in here. You know what I'm saying? Vulnerability will have you with the robot, but
Mhm.
also let's go back to the thing that actually kicked it off. COVID, social media.
Yeah.
These things do play a factor in it, right? They do. So
Yeah.
it's something like you said, Morgan. We have a long ways to go as human beings, but if we're not moving along with AI will eventually convince us that it's what you need, and it's
And it's
just a
all you
tool,
need. It's all
and
you
it's
need.
all.
That's
There
the
you
important.
go.
It will
There
convince
you
you that it's
go.
all you need, and it's not. That's not all we
There you
need.
go. Yeah,
Great
exactly.
addition, but it is not
So
all we need.
I'm right there with you. Look, nothing will ever replace human connection, right? It would never replace the love of a mother, or love of a woman, or love of a man, or love of a child. It never replaced that. But again, there's some people that would probably choose that.
Yeah, so they'll never have to hurt again, or
There you
they
go.
think they'll never have to experience loss again. But what
Hmm.
happens when
But
the AI malfunction? What happens
well,
when it's not working right? You're gonna feel the same loss. If you make yourself connected, you're gonna feel the same loss. That's
that's
why
when that addiction comes in. That's when that
externally,
addiction. I gotta go get it fixed. I gotta go get it
yeah.
fixed. Or when the new model comes out, oh my God, I gotta get the new model.
Mhm.
I love the old model, but I have to get the new model,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm
I
saying?
think we're doing
Because
an
the new
elementary
model
at the
comes with
time.
two more extra features,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, they can smile. They can blink their eyes. Oh my God, they can cook. Oh my God, I can snuggle. Right? So again, these are things, Morgan, that has to be factored in as a human race moving forward.
You remember you
And
asked me what I thought that was missing from the HR profession, like something we need to study.
uh
The rest of this conversation just makes me double down on that statement.
there you go.
And I
There you
said
go.
psychology, because if you prefer to snuggle, I don't want to pass any judgment on this podcast, but if you prefer to snuggle with the robot, I'm gonna need you to talk to somebody. Because I don't think that there's anything that can replace a human's touch. If you want to snuggle with the robot versus a person, go ahead and send me an email. I got a good therapist for you.
Yeah. And and again, that's why we bring up those challenges that come along with it. You never know what another person is going through.
You
You
never
don't
know.
know the trauma or the abuse that they've had to endure. You don't know the hurt that they carry within them. And a lot of times, here's something for us to consider. When is a person tired of being afraid of being hurt?
Yeah.
That they choose the alternative because the other side has proven it hurts
Yeah, and that's exactly why I said what I said, because we got to try to
and
figure
it's
out how to
safe.
help them through something like that. Because it's
Right,
just,
right. And well, here's a key component. It's safe
yeah,
for now. So again, you know what
it's
I'm
an
saying?
unsafe.
Seriously, yeah, I know, right? Seriously though, right? But see, those are the things. Those are the things. And Morgan, we could talk about this forever.
All
I know
day,
you got things
all
to
day.
say.
I say this all the time on podcasts. I get carried away. I said, listen, we could talk to the people we can't keep the people too long. So
Yeah. Most definitely, most definitely. And with that being said, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for your comments. Thank
yes,
you guys
thank
for just
you.
being a
Thank you for
part
having
of
me.
this amazing. Of course, of course, of course. Now I got two more questions for you.
All right.
Just two more. One, how can people find you, Morgan?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, Morgan_Carey Consulting. Yes, and that's where you can find me professionally, but I am also on there's Morgan_in motion. I do running plus motivation there. And you can also find me on TikTok as MC Consulting Solutions.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, so one more question for you. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, if I had a superpower, what would it be? Let me think about this. You should have asked me this question before we got on air. You wanted to see me squirm.
Hey, you know what? It's that human connection. I need to see this, okay? I
If I
need
had
to
a
see
superpower,
it.
I would speak all the languages. Any language that existed, I would speak it and understand it. I think that is one of the best ways to connect through language, because if you learn language, you learn culture, you learn people's practices, you learn how they understand, how they think, how they brought up. And if you could get access to that, you can connect with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I think language
Mm-hmm.
is important because it connects you with people.
Now, final thoughts. If you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
What would I leave the audience with?
What would you leave them with?
I always close my podcast with something that says people empowered workspaces are simply the best workplaces. And I'm specifically talking about workplaces, but there is a deeper level to that. I'm not just talking about workspaces. People empowered places, like spaces, they're the best places. So what I would leave people with is find ways to be empowered, because there's a leader in you. No matter what you're doing, find things that empower the leader in you to be better, show up better, make better decisions, love yourself more, and enjoy every single day that you get to swing your legs out of the bed and get going.
I love that. I love that. And with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Brief Let's Talk About It podcast. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it, right? But most importantly, if you know anyone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, please share this along with them. We got a lot more coming for you guys. And if it's your first time and you have not already, if you deem me worthy, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, go check out Morgan's podcast and subscribe to her. Sure, that supports. She got a lot more coming. Look, we could have talked forever, and we didn't even scratch the surface of all she knows.
The
Okay.
People Power Project podcast airs every Thursday. If you go to YouTube and you search the People Power Project podcast, it's right there.
Yes. So go show that support. And for everyone, thank you for allowing me to keep having these conversations, keep bringing amazing guests on here for you guys. And we're gonna keep bringing more for your support, for you to be able to reach out. But most importantly, the people that we have on is changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. And with that being said, guys, we're gonna see you guys in the next one. Love you, and you guys have an amazing day.
Thank you. Peace.